Today we're going to make grandmother's garden flowers with circles and squares of fabric. Now that sounds like magic, doesn't it?
Well, you are a fabric magician, you know.
Well, thanks.
This is the dimensional poppy. The larger poppy is made from a 4.5-inch circle. The smaller one is a 3.5-inch circle. And then the shooting star below is a 3.5-inch square. The shooting stars grow in shades of purples and fuchsias. It's an inverted flower. It grows on a curved stem and it has an elongated pistil.
Well, it looks like a shooting rocket. Now compare the two-dimensional flowers with the flat ones. Now my flat poppy is made with the fusible interfacing technique in red and pink. Oh, it's so much fun. And look at those leaves. They look like a challenge. Now the shooting star up above it is just beautiful in those bright fuchsia colors and that same curved stem. So, did you cut your squares, Pat?
Yes, I did.
So let's sew up some geometric shapes.
On the dimensional poppy, there are 2 fabrics in each flower. On the large poppy, I use the medium pink and the dark pink. On the middle flower, I use the pink and the red, and then the small flower, I use the pink and the red again.
Or you could use another color as the yellow family. This is a medium and dark of the yellow, or you could use a medium and dark of the peach. Now, I just love this poppy. It's not quite as bright as the California poppy, but it is beautiful. Now, I'm going to start with the flat poppy because that's the easiest one. Right here I have the 2 different values of pinks. There are 2 pieces in your flat poppy. This is the top part, and this is the bottom part for the 2 different sizes. Now when you trace your top part on, you're going to leave this part open. So that's the part that you turn it right side out through. Now the bottom part, here are the 2 pieces right here. You trace them on the fusible interfacing, stitch on the line, trim it, turn it, and ooh, these large size pieces, go ahead and stuff them. So then when they're overlapped, you actually just cover up that opening. Look at that. Easy on the flat. Now let's go on to the dimensional. The first thing you need to do is trace some circles on template plastic. And I have 4 different sizes of circles all traced and ready to go. Okay, now you could trace the 4.5-inch, but if you'd like, you could go ahead and use this Jumbo Circle Master to get all of the sizes smaller than 4.5 inches. This works great. Now, you need to cut your fabric squares, and actually they're just really a 1/2 inch larger than each one of the circles. So the first piece, I have the 2 pieces placed right sides together, the medium and the dark.
5 inches.
Oh, you know all the answers. A 5-inch square, and then we're going to go down, just decreasing 1 inch each time.
4 inches.
You know all the answers.
3 inches.
All right. Then take your 4.5-inch circle, place it in the center of your 5-inch square, trace around the circle, and then just stitch on the line. This is 20 stitches to the inch. This is a nice tight stitch around there. Okay, so Pat, are you ready?
I can do this.
All right, I want you to just trim 1/8 inch away from the line. Oh, you are good. All right. So take your leaves right here. Need to have 2 different fabrics for your greens, 2 different greens. Trace 1 leaf on each piece and also one of those bud pieces so they look like this. Now when you are sewing around these little leaves, look at all of those squiggly lines. It is so hard to stay on that line. So the best thing is to just lift your top of your sewing machine, and if you can reduce the pressure on your needle bar. If you can make the piece of fabric swing underneath your needle a little bit easier, boy, that is the way to go. Okay, so once you have all of your leaves stitched on the line, trimmed and turned, you're ready to go on. You need to put your stems on. Both of them have stems. These are the leaves that are in place. And once those are in place, you can go ahead, sew the handle to the basket. How about some sewing? Now, I'd like to add some dimension to the leaves. And of course, if I'm going to do this by machine, I'm going to select a stitch called the triple stitch. Now on this machine, let me see, it is number 10. It's just a 1 0. A triple stitch is a stitch that goes back and forth on top of each other 3 times. Now, heaven forbid I get any puckering in this. So I'm just going to pin some tearaway stabilizer right underneath and just get it ready. So are you done?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. What do you think you're doing,
I'm going to turn this right side out.
Oh, okay.
While you're doing that,
Okay.
okay, I cut my opening on the light fabric. I slip my straw in the opening, take my bodkin, my
Okay.
ballpoint bodkin,
Okay.
and push the fabric into the straw.
All right.
Did I do it right?
Do the magic noise like da 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 da.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to get that all smooth. Can I do this now?
You can do that.
All
I'm going
right.
to turn this and smooth it out.
Okay. Good. Well, as soon as I get going on this, then you can just go ahead
Okay.
and show off, huh? Okay. Needle down. Right in the end. Needle down. Hold on to those threads in the back. And just go back and forth. Oh boy, keep this in order. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And you can go ahead and do a little bit of curve as you go right around that leaf from one end to the other. Oh, and change the color of the thread. Let's see. Oh, that looks great. See if you approve of this. Especially
Very
since
nice.
it's your basket.
Very nice, thank you.
Okay, I like that.
You can just finish the whole thing for me
I
now.
think I will. Okay, well, actually, all that you really need to do to finish the flat one would be to take these 2 pieces. This one is going to go right here on this. And the larger puppy, oh, better get out that pin, is just going to go right on this. And you just fuse it in place and just stitch around the outside edge. Easy. So how about yours?
I'm ready for a 3.5-inch circle template.
Okay, 3.5 inch.
And I'm going to draw a line from notch to notch on the pattern sheet.
Okay.
When you're tracing the templates, you will just mark those little 2 notches, and then I'm centering the template, and then I draw the circle from notch to notch.
Or about 2/3 of the way.
Correct.
Okay.
And then this is when we do those magic poppies. And you better watch this quick.
All right.
If you blink your eye,
Matching
you can-
thread.
right, matching the darker fabric.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a running stitch. Oh, I wish I was as fast as you. From notch to notch.
Or about 2/3 of the way.
Correct.
Okay.
And then this is when we do those magic poppies. And you better watch this quick.
All right.
If you blink your eye,
Matching
you can-
thread.
right, matching the darker fabric.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a running stitch.
Keeps on going down. You always go down 1 inch in size.
Correct.
You did that good.
Okay, now I did my stitches. Are you watching? You
I
gotta
am.
look quick, because it's going to happen really fast.
Ooh. Ah.
There's an instant poppy.
Yeah.
I'm ready for my block.
Okay, here. I'll give that back to you.
And a couple of pins.
Okay, here's your block.
Thank you.
And some pins.
Yeah, I'm going to put this big poppy on this stem. And I'll pin it in place.
Now, are you going to hand stitch that?
Of course.
Of course.
But you can do it on your machine if you like.
Invisible thread, blind hem. That would work good.
And if you want to, we can roll over the front edge, do some French knots.
Okay. Or are you going to put the rest in place?
Oh, I've got more flowers.
Okay.
When you got one poppy, you got a lot of poppies. You know how those seeds are
Oh,
spread
right.
by the wind?
Right.
They'll just take over your entire yard. You remember Mother had beautiful pink poppies everywhere. And here's the medium size, and we're going to put this little one right here on this little stem.
Perfect. So look how good that is. If you wanted to do some French knots right in the poppy, then all you have to do is right here, see how that's all curled back? The little poppies are right in place. Or the little French knots, black French knots are right in place, so you can finish that off. Looks really good. Now, Pat, are you feeling sleepy?
Kinda.
Well, it's because the poppies always crown Somnus, the ancient god of sleep. Interesting. Now, the shooting star will really wake you up, especially with this bright fuchsia fabric. Now, the fuchsia is mottled, and that just means that it goes from light to medium to dark all in one piece. Go ahead and trace 9 petals right on your fusible interfacing and then move them around. You need to actually cut 3 lights and you need to have 6 darks. Just fussy cut right out of that piece of material. And then place the interfacing on top, sew in the lines, trim and turn. And when you're done, you should have 3 lights and 6 darks. Go ahead and take 2 darks and overlap them right at the top like this. And this little light piece has some cotton batting in it, so it has nice dimension. And you just are going to place that right on top. And you'll make 3 flat shooting stars exactly like this one. Easy to do. Now, the dimensional one is just a little more tricky. Now, you're going to go ahead and have that yellow rocket. See that yellow rocket right on the bottom? Well, that's on all 3 of them. You have 1 lavender and 2 fuchsia flowers. Well, let me show you how you do it. You're going to do it from squares. Use 3.5-inch squares. You need to have 1 lavender, 2 fuchsias, and 3 yellows. They're already right sides together, and all you really need to do is line them up, sew with a 1/4-inch seam all around the outside edge, and then turn it right side out. Well, I'm going to give that to Pat in just a minute. But first, I want to go ahead and show you the leaves. Now, both the flat and the dimensional have the same type of leaves. They're easy to do just with pieced strips. You take 2-inch wide strips of a light and a medium, put them right sides together and sew the length of that seam. And then so that you can turn them easily, you need to take that seam and press them open. That's a little bit different than what we normally do. But then trace your 2 leaves on the fusible and make sure that you include that dashed line right down through the middle, because that's just going to line right up with that seam. So when you sew in the line and you trim it and you turn it, ta-da! You've got 2 that look just like this.
I'm using the placement sheet in my book to arrange the leaves onto the handle piece. And then before I press, gotta remove the book. And
Good
then
idea.
I will press on the right side, shot of steam, turn it over, press it again, and it's really stuck on there good.
Good.
Now I bet you'd like some stems.
I would.
So let's go back to the placement sheet, and we're going to put a nice little curve, give you a little challenge here, and there's another curve, and let's see if you can put the stem.
Oh, that's going to be good. Okay, now, I would like you to take your 3.5-inch squares, trim the seam back to 1/8 inch,
Okay.
clip the
And-
corners, and how are you going to turn it?
Opening on the light yellow side.
Perfect.
See, I have done this before.
You have. And I'm going to show you how to do the stem. The stem comes from a bias strip. It's 1 1/4 inches wide, cut from the green, and you take the wrong sides, fold them in half, wrong sides together to just get that whole long bias. Now start right up here on the top. In fact, I think I'll just cut this straight so I'm ready. Want to start right up here with a 1/4-inch seam, and I'm going to line up the raw edges against the inside of the curve. I just want to go right into that curve and stop, and let's see if I can do it. Gosh, this sounds like I better get my stiletto up here. Okay, I have my 1/4-inch foot on my sewing machine. I have, it's small stitch, about 12, 15 stitches to the inch. So a couple of more stitches, needle down right there. And I'm just going to raise that foot. Pull that out of there. So at this seam right here, I'm just going to go clip right in. So I can take this and just curve it around the rest of the way. Okay, now let's see if I can get that back in there. Just about where I was, needle down. Line up the raw edge with the inside edge of the line and just sew straight down there. This is actually the technique that you use for all of the biases. You always put the strip on the inside of the curve. Ooh, let's see what we did now. Needle up. Okay, that's looking good right there. And so then whenever this is finished, then all you need to do is just push this over and flat, and that'll curve right around there. And once you press this in place, then all you need to do is just stitch with invisible thread and the blind hem stitch, and it will be perfect. So how's your shooting star coming, Pat?
I'm ready to press. I pressed it once, turn it over, press it again. Now I need to press this into quarter sections, so if you just fold it in half and press it one way, fold it again, and press it the other way, so that now I have 4 quarter sections.
Perfect.
And then I'm using a needle and thread.
Oops,
and
find the right needle.
Yeah, too many needles. Okay, and I'm going to do a running stitch through 1/4 of a circle, and I'm going to stitch an arc from this point to this point, and my thread matches the darker fabric, and I'm just going to...
Big stitches?
Oh, not too big, not too small. Just a regular gathering stitch. And I just made my first petal, but I need to secure it. So I'm going to wrap around that edge, but you want to pull it tightly and then wrap twice to hold it in place. And then I will just continue through each arc. I will stitch an arc through each quarter, and now it looks like this.
Boy, did you do that fast.
I was fast.
That was fast.
Now, to shape that little rocket, as you call it, I placed my petal with the dark fabric up, and then I'm going to roll one of the petals tightly up to the center, and now almost exposed it. The yellow is exposed, and if I just kind of wrap it around to the back, and then I'm going to take a stitch and connect those 2 sides. Just kind of do a little stitch here, pull it tight, and we've got a shooting star.
So are you going to pin that down
Yeah,
now?
I have a couple pins.
Okay.
And we're going to pin it in place and put a nice big pistol on the end. And I have my embroidery floss threaded.
Now that is a needle.
Yeah,
Look
it's
at
a
that.
serious needle. We got a
Really?
serious job to do here. And I have just caught my needle in back, and then I'm taking a long satin stitch, pull it through the bottom, come around and back again.
And you'll just do a couple of stitches
Yeah,
on top
I
of
usually
each other?
do 2 or 3.
Great. Well, the poppy's beautiful, the shooting star's beautiful. It's time to go to the garden. Well, the poppy has been described as a burning coal fallen from heaven's altars. Well, there was no sparing of the color in this poppy piece with 3 different shades of red, and it's still bright. Well, the quilt maker did a beautiful job with the applique, and I just love these tiny French knots right in the center of the flower. Well, red poppies are field or corn poppies, and they thrive in soil that has been freshly turned because the seeds need light to germinate. They flourished in the battlefields of France during World War I because the ground was churned up by the battles. So when we see red poppies, we associate them with Flanders Field. Well, do you remember the little red paper poppies from the American Legion? Well, this photo was taken with the red paper poppy. And the caption says, "First Buddy Poppy. President Truman smiles as he received Poppy from Sandra Faye Hall, 6. Sandra's father was killed in action in Europe." Well, this is a beautiful poppy quilt with a red not quite as bright. Oh, it's just fantastic. And right here, look at the little hair follicles stitched on the seed pods. It's so cute. This red in the border stayed very bright. It must have been a good color-fast fabric. But now the yellow used for the backing was not color-fast. Apparently when the quilt was laundered, the yellow color migrated up through the batting to the front and then made the background this soft, pale yellow. Now this could have been avoided by color-fasting the fabric with a dye fixative, sometimes called retain. You just put it right in the water. Colors like blue and especially the fuchsia in red pigment tend to run. Well, if your fabric does run, there's a product called Synthropol, and that will remove all the excess dyes. I think it's best to catch it before you do dry your quilt. So may all your fabrics be color fast and waiting for you.